Meet Eleanor, a vibrant woman in her 70s who lives alone. While she cherishes her independence, she often finds herself struggling with loneliness and the challenges of managing her home. At times, the weight of it all feels overwhelming. But after a week of small, thoughtful changes, Eleanor discovered how simple habits can transform daily life. Today, she's here to share the 15 golden habits that renewed her life in just 7 days. These tips helped her regain confidence, stay connected, and feel truly empowered. Eleanor had always taken pride in her independence. Living alone meant freedom to do what she wanted, when she wanted. However, there were moments when she felt overwhelmed, like when the house started to feel quieter than it ever had before, or when loneliness crept in during the evenings. One morning, as Eleanor sat with her tea, gazing out the window, she realized something. It wasn't the independence she needed to embrace. It was the small, everyday rituals that could bring peace and stability. This realization marked the beginning of her transformation, a journey that would take only 7 days to change her life. 1. Living alone can often leave you feeling adrift, without something to anchor you through the day. Eleanor found that introducing small daily rituals made a world of difference. It could be as simple as having a cup of tea in the morning, followed by reading a chapter from a book, or doing a little stretching to get the body moving. At first, these rituals felt insignificant, but over time, they created a comforting rhythm. One morning, Eleanor sat in her favorite armchair, sipping her tea. She noticed how much the routine helped ground her. No matter what happened during the day, these small moments gave her a sense of control and peace. If you're feeling like things are a little chaotic or uncertain in your own life, start by incorporating one simple ritual into your morning. Maybe it's just a moment to sit quietly and breathe. Or perhaps you enjoy listening to music or a podcast that lifts your spirits. These small acts can help you feel less like you're simply surviving and more like you're thriving, no matter how small the step seems. Remember, the power lies in consistency. When you start your day with something simple and grounding, it sets a positive tone for everything that follows. Even when life feels unpredictable, a little ritual can provide stability and calm. 2. Eleanor had always been fond of her garden, but over time, she let it slip into neglect. As she began her journey of change, she realized that reconnecting with nature was more than just a pleasant way to pass the time. It was essential for her well-being. She started by tending to her plants in the morning, feeling the earth between her fingers as she pulled weeds and watered the flowers. Each moment spent outside seemed to bring a little more energy, a little more peace. One afternoon, she decided to take a walk around her neighborhood. The fresh air, the sound of birds singing, and the sight of trees swaying in the breeze felt like a balm for her soul. She couldn't remember the last time she had taken a walk like that, and it surprised her how much it energized her. For those of you who might be feeling isolated or disconnected, don't underestimate the power of nature. Whether you have a garden or not, simply getting outside, even if it's just for a few minutes, can help lift your mood. If mobility is an issue, maybe sitting by a window with a view of the outside, or even placing plants in your home, can bring nature to you. It's easy to forget just how healing nature can be, but reconnecting with the outdoors offers so many benefits. Fresh air, sunlight, and a change of scenery can improve your mood, boost your energy, and reduce feelings of loneliness. So take that first step, whether it's walking around the block or simply sitting in your garden. Let nature remind you of the beauty and peace that still surrounds you. 3. At first, Eleanor wasn't sure where to begin when it came to getting her body moving. She had always been active, but age and a few health challenges had slowed her down. One morning, As she struggled to rise from the couch, she decided that it was time to take action. She started with simple stretches, reaching for the sky, gently twisting her torso, and doing leg lifts while sitting in her chair. The exercises were easy enough, but they felt good. More importantly, they made her feel in control again. As the days passed, Eleanor noticed her energy returning. She felt stronger, more flexible, and less afraid of being immobile. A little every day was all it took to start noticing the difference. And, most importantly, Eleanor felt more confident in her ability to care for herself. If you're unsure where to start, there's no need for complicated routines or expensive equipment. Simple stretches, short walks, or even chair exercises can help you regain mobility and confidence in your body. Start slow, listen to your body, and gradually build up your routine. Even 10 minutes a day can lead to big improvements in strength, balance, and energy. Exercise doesn't have to be intimidating or overwhelming. The goal is to move your body in a way that feels comfortable and good for you. Over time, these small exercises will make a significant difference in your physical and emotional well-being. Taking the first step towards change can feel daunting, especially when it comes to forming new habits. But remember, the key is to start small. Eleanor didn't suddenly transform her life overnight. She took one small action at a time. And that's all it takes. Each small step you take toward bettering your life adds up. The journey isn't about perfection. It's about progress. The habits Eleanor embraced didn't feel like grand gestures. They were just simple acts of self-care and connection. They were small, but they made a huge difference. So no matter where you are in your journey, remember that even the smallest actions count. Each one is a victory, and with each victory, you're moving closer to a more joyful, independent life. When Eleanor first decided to make changes to her routine, she found herself facing the common fear that many seniors experience: the fear of change. She had always been independent, so the idea of altering her daily habits felt intimidating. Could she really stick to new routines? What if she wasn't capable of doing them? These doubts filled her mind as she hesitated at the starting line of her transformation. But after much thought, Eleanor realized that she didn't need to make massive, overwhelming changes. She just needed to take small steps. 4. At first, the thought of change felt like a giant leap, something far too difficult to handle. But Eleanor soon discovered that by easing herself into new habits, she didn't feel like she was forcing change on herself. She was simply creating a routine that worked for her. One morning, she started with a simple goal: wake up at the same time each day, enjoy her tea, and then do one thing that made her feel good, whether it was a few stretches or taking a brief walk around the block. Slowly, she started to feel more in control, and the fear began to lessen. Eleanor's story is one that many seniors can relate to. The fear of starting new things can often hold us back, even when we know change could improve our lives. However, creating a simple routine, one that is gentle but consistent, can help build confidence. Don't feel pressured to do everything at once. Start with something small, like setting a fixed time for your morning routine or taking a walk at the same time every day. The key is consistency, not perfection. By setting a routine that feels manageable, you create a sense of control, making change feel less overwhelming. Take it one step at a time, and soon the idea of change will feel less intimidating. 5. One of Eleanor's greatest fears in living alone was the feeling of loneliness. It wasn't the solitude that bothered her. It was the silence, the lack of someone to share her day with. She found herself hesitating when it came to reaching out to others, fearing that her calls might be a burden, or that she wouldn't know what to say. However, after some reflection, Eleanor realized that her loved ones probably missed her too. So she decided to make the first move and call a friend. That phone call turned out to be one of the most uplifting conversations she'd had in weeks. The friend she called was so happy to hear from her, and the conversation flowed naturally. This small act of reaching out broke the barrier of loneliness, showing Eleanor that social connection wasn't just something to wait for. It was something she could create. If you're feeling isolated, reaching out can be easier than it seems. Start by calling a friend or family member you haven't spoken to in a while. If that feels too daunting, perhaps try sending a text or joining an online group. Today, many communities exist online where you can connect with people who share your interests. Websites like Meetup or Facebook groups provide an opportunity to find like-minded individuals, and it's a great way to start engaging with others in a more manageable way. Feeling connected to others can improve your mental well-being and ease the loneliness that often accompanies living alone. It doesn't need to be a long conversation. Just a short chat can brighten your day and remind you that you're not alone. Reach out to someone today, even if it's just to say hello. 6. One of the more difficult aspects of living alone for Eleanor was the emotional weight of the past. Memories of loved ones who had passed and regrets about decisions made in her younger years sometimes clouded her thoughts. At times, it felt as though the past was holding her back from fully embracing her present and future. Eleanor knew that in order to embrace a new chapter in her life, she needed to let go of those lingering thoughts. But how? The turning point came when she decided to start journaling. She wrote down her thoughts about the past, the good, the bad, and the unresolved. It wasn't about fixing everything. It was about letting her feelings out, giving herself permission to release them. As she poured her heart out onto paper, Eleanor found that the weight she had been carrying seemed a little lighter. It wasn't easy, but she had taken a step toward healing. If you find yourself holding on to past regrets or feeling stuck in memories, try journaling. It doesn't matter if your thoughts are messy or imperfect. Writing them down allows you to process and release them. Another approach could be reflecting on what you've learned from the past, rather than focusing on mistakes. Shifting your perspective from regret to growth can help you move forward with a sense of empowerment. You don't need to forget your past, but you can choose to let go of the parts that weigh you down. Acknowledge your feelings, allow yourself to grieve, and then focus on the present. You are not defined by your past. The future is yours to shape. Change doesn't have to be a scary thing, and you're not alone in your journey. Eleanor's transformation wasn't easy, but by breaking down the process into small, manageable steps, she found a way to move past her fears. Whether it's starting a new routine, reaching out to loved ones, or letting go of past burdens, each step brings you closer to a life that feels more fulfilling and balanced. Remember, progress isn't about perfection. It's about consistency and self-compassion. Every phone call, every small habit you introduce into your routine, and every moment you choose to let go of emotional baggage is a victory. It's okay to take your time and move at your own pace. You're doing great, and each step forward counts. As Eleanor's journey progressed, she found herself struggling with deeper emotional hurdles, like managing stress and dealing with the anxiety that came with living alone. While she had been taking small steps towards self-care, she still needed a bit of guidance. It was then that she met Margaret, a friend from a local community group who had experienced similar challenges. Margaret became the mentor Eleanor didn't know she needed. Through their conversations, Eleanor learned that finding peace of mind was just as important as physical activity or social connection. 7. Eleanor noticed that despite her efforts, her mind was often filled with worries about her health, her future, and even the state of the world around her. That's when Margaret suggested she try mindfulness and meditation. At first, Eleanor was skeptical. The idea of sitting quietly and focusing on her breath seemed impossible. But Margaret gently encouraged her, saying, "It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about acknowledging them and letting them pass without judgment." So Eleanor decided to give it a try. She began with just 5 minutes of deep breathing in the mornings before starting her day. To her surprise, it felt calming. Gradually, she built up to 15 minutes, focusing not only on her breath, but also on the sensations in her body and the sounds around her. Mindfulness doesn't need to be a complicated practice. Start by setting aside 5 minutes each morning or evening. Find a comfortable seat, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. If your thoughts wander, which they will, gently guide your attention back to your breathing. Over time, you'll notice how this simple act can clear your mind, reduce anxiety, and bring peace into your day. It's important to remember that mindfulness isn't a quick fix. It's a practice. And like any new skill, it takes time to see results. But every moment you spend focusing on your breath or grounding yourself in the present is a step toward emotional resilience. And soon, you'll feel the positive impact on your mental clarity and inner peace. 8. As Eleanor worked on calming her mind, she also realized that the state of her home affected her emotional well-being. The clutter, the piles of mail, and the little things she kept putting off all added to her sense of overwhelm. Margaret shared how she had organized her home to create a peaceful space where she felt relaxed and energized. Inspired by her mentor, Eleanor decided to tackle her own home, starting with small areas she could manage. She began by decluttering her living room, focusing on the things that brought her joy and discarding those that no longer served her. It wasn't an overnight process, but as Eleanor made progress, she noticed a change. The space felt lighter, and she felt more at ease. The clutter, once a physical manifestation of her worries, was now gone. If you're feeling overwhelmed by your living space, start small. Begin with one room or even a single corner. Go through your possessions and ask yourself, does this bring me joy or serve a purpose? If it doesn't, let it go. Create a space that feels calm and welcoming. Decluttering your environment can have a profound effect on your mental state, giving you a sense of control and peace. Remember, you don't need to do it all at once. Even organizing one drawer or clearing off a countertop can help create a sense of order. As you declutter, you'll feel lighter and more at ease, and the physical act of organizing can bring emotional relief. 9. Even as Eleanor worked on her home and her mindfulness practice, she still struggled with negative thoughts. It was easy to focus on what she didn't have or the things she wished were different. One day, Margaret introduced her to the practice of gratitude. Gratitude, Margaret said, shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already abundant in your life. Margaret recommended starting a gratitude journal. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how small. Eleanor was skeptical at first. What if she didn't have enough to be grateful for? But she decided to give it a try. The next morning, she wrote down, "I'm grateful for my warm cup of tea, my garden, and the phone call I had with my daughter yesterday." The more Eleanor practiced gratitude, the more she realized how much she had to be thankful for. Her journal grew fuller with each passing day, and she began to notice a shift in her mindset. If you're feeling stuck in negativity, a gratitude practice can be a simple but powerful way to reframe your thinking. Start small. Just write down 3 things every day. They don't have to be monumental. Even something as simple as the smell of fresh coffee or the warmth of a cozy blanket can be enough to help you focus on the good. Over time, this small habit can help shift your focus away from worries and frustrations, replacing them with appreciation and positivity. And when you begin to recognize the abundance in your life, it becomes easier to feel content and hopeful, no matter what challenges you may face. As Eleanor learned from Margaret, making small changes in her routine had a ripple effect, improving her overall well-being and outlook on life. Eleanor's journey wasn't perfect, and it didn't happen overnight. But with each step, whether it was incorporating mindfulness, decluttering her space, or practicing gratitude, she found herself growing stronger and more at peace. The key is to remember that you don't have to do everything at once. Take it one step at a time, and don't be too hard on yourself if you don't see immediate results. Every small change you make will bring you closer to a more balanced and peaceful life. Just like Eleanor, you can start small and build up to a more fulfilling routine that works for you. The journey to emotional peace and independence is ongoing, but it's one that is full of small victories and positive moments. With patience, persistence, and a little guidance, you too can embrace these practices and create a life that feels empowered, connected, and joyful. As Eleanor moved forward in her journey, she began to feel more confident in her ability to handle change. But as with any transformation, she encountered obstacles along the way. Life's challenges didn't suddenly disappear. Some days felt overwhelming. Still, Eleanor was determined to keep going. She had learned that overcoming the initial hurdles was the key to long-lasting change. As she crossed that threshold, Eleanor realized that she was no longer waiting for life to happen. She was actively shaping it. 10. One of Eleanor's biggest challenges was establishing a daily routine that made her feel both independent and productive. At first, she would wake up with no clear plan for the day, and time would slip away before she realized it. This left her feeling restless, like she hadn't accomplished anything. But after some reflection, Eleanor decided that a structured routine, one that worked with her own pace, was the solution. She began by setting a few small goals for herself each day, such as starting her morning with a cup of tea, followed by 10 minutes of stretching. Afterward, she would pick a task to complete, whether it was organizing her bookshelf, taking a walk, or writing a letter to a friend. These tasks weren't large, but they gave her a sense of purpose and accomplishment. By the time the day was over, Eleanor felt productive, even if it was just in small ways. Creating a routine that suits your needs doesn't have to be complicated. Start by identifying 1 or 2 things you'd like to achieve each day, whether it's something as simple as making your bed, having breakfast, or doing a bit of light exercise. A sense of purpose and accomplishment, even in small doses, can make a huge difference in how you feel about your day. Remember, you are the architect of your own routine. It can be as simple or as intricate as you like. And no matter how small the task, completing it will give you a sense of control and independence. Soon, your routine will become second nature, and each day will feel more manageable and fulfilling. 11. As Eleanor's routine began to take shape, she realized that her days felt more meaningful when she was doing something that sparked joy. At first, she had lost sight of the hobbies that once brought her happiness. She was so focused on the necessities of life, like maintaining her home and managing her health, that she forgot about the simple pleasures that once filled her heart. But after a conversation with her friend Margaret, who encouraged her to take up knitting again, Eleanor rediscovered her passion for crafting. She started small, making a scarf for herself, and soon she was creating small gifts for friends and family. The repetitive motion of knitting was soothing, and the sense of accomplishment after finishing a project was rewarding. What's more, Eleanor found that her hobbies not only brought her joy, but also provided a sense of purpose. If you're feeling disconnected or unfulfilled, think about what hobbies or interests used to bring you joy. Maybe it's knitting, painting, gardening, or even something you've always wanted to try, like learning to play a musical instrument or writing. The key is to give yourself permission to engage in activities that nourish your soul. Reconnecting with hobbies you love or discovering new ones can lift your spirits and provide a sense of accomplishment. Whether you're creating something with your hands, diving into a good book, or picking up an old skill, your hobbies are an outlet for joy and creativity. Remember, these activities are not about being perfect. They're about enjoying the process and finding fulfillment in what you do. 12. As Eleanor became more involved in her routine and hobbies, she also started to realize that she needed help from time to time. The idea of asking for support had always made her feel vulnerable, but over time, she learned that there was no shame in reaching out to others. Whether it was asking a neighbor for help with groceries or calling her daughter for advice, Eleanor found that her loved ones were more than willing to offer support. One evening, after struggling with a few tasks around the house, Eleanor called her daughter. She was feeling a little down and unsure of how to handle a couple of things. To her surprise, her daughter didn't just offer advice. She also suggested some simple solutions and offered to come over and help the next day. That conversation reminded Eleanor that asking for help didn't make her weak. It made her stronger by giving her the courage to lean on others when needed. Asking for help doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're allowing yourself the grace to accept support. If you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out to someone you trust. Whether it's a friend, family member, or even a community group, asking for support can lift a heavy weight off your shoulders. It's important to remember that you don't have to do everything on your own. People care about you and want to help. By reaching out, you're not only giving yourself assistance, but you're also strengthening your connections with others. No matter how independent you are, it's okay to ask for help when needed. Eleanor's journey was not without its challenges. There were days when she felt unsure of herself or doubted the changes she had made. But with each small step, whether it was creating a routine, diving into hobbies, or reaching out for support, she became more confident in her ability to handle life's ups and downs. What Eleanor learned along the way is that change doesn't happen overnight. It's about making consistent, manageable adjustments that lead to meaningful progress. If you're feeling hesitant or overwhelmed, take it one step at a time. Embrace the small victories and remember that you don't have to do everything at once. Every day is a new opportunity to move closer to the life you want to live. By nurturing yourself, leaning on your community, and embracing your journey, you'll find that life becomes more fulfilling and manageable. Just like Eleanor, you too can cross that threshold, knowing that each small step is bringing you closer to a life that feels joyful, independent, and empowered. As Eleanor continued her journey toward a more fulfilling life, she encountered the inevitable emotional hurdles. Despite the positive changes she had made, she still had moments of doubt and frustration. There were times when she felt like her progress wasn't enough, or that she wasn't quite where she wanted to be. But Eleanor quickly realized that these feelings were a normal part of the process, and it was through confronting and overcoming them that she would continue to grow stronger. 13. One afternoon, Eleanor found herself feeling overwhelmed by a health scare. She had been feeling a little under the weather, and it brought back all the old fears about losing her independence. She could feel the familiar pang of anxiety creeping in. What if this was the beginning of a long decline? For a moment, she considered giving up on the habits she had worked so hard to build. But Eleanor remembered something important. Setbacks are a part of life. They don't define her journey. They are just bumps along the road. Instead of letting the setback control her, Eleanor decided to show herself some compassion. She took a step back, allowed herself to feel the emotions without judgment, and gave herself the space to recover. Over the next few days, she focused on taking things one step at a time. She reached out to a friend for support, took her medications, and followed the self-care routines that had worked for her. Slowly, Eleanor regained her strength, both physically and emotionally. When you face setbacks, whether it's health-related or emotional, it's essential to show yourself compassion. It's okay to have moments of doubt, and it's okay to take a break. The key is to not let setbacks derail your entire journey. Acknowledge the challenge, give yourself the grace to feel, and then move forward at your own pace. You're not failing. You're simply navigating the natural ups and downs of life. Remember, progress isn't linear. Some days will be harder than others, but each time you pick yourself back up, you become stronger and more resilient. 14. Eleanor had reached a point in her journey where she could look back and see how far she had come. At the start, everything seemed so daunting. Would the changes be worth it? Would she be able to stick to her new habits? But now, Eleanor realized that the small wins she celebrated every day were the very things that had kept her moving forward. Whether it was making her bed every morning, reaching out to a friend for a chat, or simply taking time to relax and breathe, every small victory was a step toward a more fulfilling life. Eleanor began to truly understand that change didn't have to be dramatic or grand. The little things mattered just as much. It was the daily consistency, the small actions that aligned with her values, that made the biggest difference in her life. These small wins helped her build confidence and reinforced her belief in her own abilities. To continue on your own journey, start celebrating your small wins, no matter how insignificant they might seem. Did you make it through a day without feeling overwhelmed? Celebrate that. Did you take a walk, even if it was just for 10 minutes? Celebrate that. These small wins compound over time and create a lasting sense of progress. Don't wait for big milestones to acknowledge your success. The smaller, everyday victories are just as important and deserve recognition. Each one brings you closer to your goals, and they all add up to create a richer, more rewarding life. 15. Now that Eleanor had established her new routine and made lasting changes in her life, she understood that this was not the end of her journey. It was simply a new beginning. She had crossed the threshold, faced the challenges, and made the necessary changes to feel more independent, empowered, and confident. But Eleanor also knew that life would continue to present challenges, and the journey would never be truly complete. The key was to keep moving forward with the same mindset she had cultivated along the way. As Eleanor looked to the future, she embraced the idea that her journey was ongoing. She didn't need to have everything figured out, but she did need to stay committed to her growth and well-being. Whether it was continuing to practice mindfulness, pursuing hobbies, or reaching out for support, Eleanor understood that these habits would keep her grounded and empowered for years to come. Continuing your own journey with confidence means embracing the unknown and knowing that you have the strength to face whatever comes next. Life will always have its ups and downs, but by maintaining your new habits and focusing on your well-being, you'll be able to handle whatever comes your way. The most important thing is to keep going. Stay curious, stay connected, and continue to learn. With each new day, you'll build upon what you've already accomplished. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Your journey is uniquely yours, and it's filled with endless possibilities. Eleanor's journey was full of challenges, but she faced each one with determination, patience, and compassion for herself. She learned that the road to fulfillment isn't about reaching a final destination, but about embracing each moment along the way. You don't have to have everything figured out all at once. The small, consistent steps you take every day are what lead to lasting change and a life filled with meaning. If you're facing your own struggles, remember that you have everything you need within you to keep going. Each step you take brings you closer to the life you deserve, one that's filled with independence, joy, and fulfillment. Don't be afraid of setbacks. They are simply part of the process. Celebrate the small wins and continue to move forward with confidence. Your journey is just beginning, and the best is yet to come. Eleanor's journey has shown us that even the smallest steps can lead to big transformations. By embracing daily rituals, reaching out for connection, and being kind to herself, she regained control and confidence in her life. Now it's your turn. Start with one small change today. Take that first step toward a more independent and fulfilling life. You've got this.